Ventura County. Spring is back. The rain has gone away. The sun is out. I'm going to do a little walk. And is that a bunny? And if we're going to walk, no, it's just a tree. I thought it was a bunny. We're going to talk because that's what I do. I'm going to drag you with me on this walk. And we're going to do something what we do all the time. Address a controversy. And guys, I'm so excited. We have a brand new one. I mean, it's new to me. It's probably come up before, but I don't remember ever arguing over it with anybody. Cantrips. Those cute little zero-level spells that were introduced way back in Dragon Magazine by Gygax to fill a little niche, and then just kind of got blown up to epic proportions, and then completely rewritten to the cantrips you're more familiar with, which are basically, oh, now I have this spell I can cast infinite times, right? But why should I ever learn higher level spells? So the argument seems to break down, as most of these pointless arguments do, RAW versus rules as perceived, rules as intended, rules as written, and if you don't like it, change it. Now, I assume this argument comes from current cantrips. Not to say that the cantrips of the past were broken, because they were. They got very broken very fast. So to understand, I guess we need to give a brief history of zero-level spells, why they were introduced, and when they went from just being something cute and interesting to, oh, these, something I could add to, wow, this is fucking broken, to the current incarnation. So when Gygax originally introduced them, and the collective hive mind believes it wasn't a Dragon magazine, it was a what if kind of, it wasn't official, it was just him hemming and hawing and tossing out ideas for apprentices, zero-level spells, the Sorcerer's Apprentice, and also to explain, zero first-level NPC magisters, or whatever you wanted to call them, So these weren't, big, awesome, world-shaking spells. They were cozy magic, comfortable magic, magic that makes sense, magic that a wizard would learn to make their lives easier, just like anybody else in any profession learns to make their lives easier, right? Why do this when this makes it easier? So they were like simple little spells, like keep food warm, flavor food, light something on fire, flash of light, stage magic mostly. But then, and at the beginnings it was fine, they made sense. Keep something warmer, that makes sense. Flavor something, stir something, and they were all like stuff a wizard would teach the apprentice to make the jobs of the apprentice easier and to keep the apprentice busy around the castle while the mage is too busy doing other things. So, swipe the floor. Obviously, there was a bit of a Mickey Mouse Sorcerer's Apprentice in there, and, television magic, the introduction of cozy magic, the idea that, we populate the world with these zero and first level casters. These guys are going to have very minor magic, like, light something on fire. Now, I don't remember exactly when they got broken, but I know they got broken. I think shortly after Unearthed Arcana was, I think, when they first appeared, when the actual math for them started to circulate and how you could build these zero-level spells and how many zero-level spells you got. Because there were a couple that basically were zero-level wish spells. That allowed very clever individuals to find ways to twist the wording, rules as written, to break what should not have been able to be broken. But, quickly they realized, this, I have a zero-level spell that's basically a match. A match can start a forest fire. I have a zero-level spell that lets me summon a small animal. Well, poisonous spiders are small animals. Mice are small animals. Goldfish are small animals. Now, the first one I heard was when I was up at school in Northern California. Somebody had found a way, rules as written, to use the cantrip to generate an infinite amount of, I want to say goldfish. It was either goldfish or mice. But basically, he found a way to break the spell that let you summon a very small animal. And he was soon just, slaughtering people with millions of little mice doing millions of points of damage, and he had it all worked out. It was totally legit. Rules as written. And he found a way, rules is written, to generate infinite mice. Then other classes got them. The clerics got them, and stuff like that. And then sorcerers got them. And then there were whole builds about zero-level spellcasters and how you could do the math and stuff like that. And then they got all come back together for like 5 spells became 1 spell. How you doing? Stuff like that. People, they kept trying to find a way to approach them. Some people liked the idea. Some people thought they were dumb. Some people thought there was too many. Some people thought there was not enough. The general concept was fine, but the actual implication just added more wherewithal in a situation that didn't really need to be there. So the potential of being broken was already there. The 0-level wish spell was already built into the DNA of cantrips. So that brings us to the cantrips we're more familiar with, probably also the cantrips that started this whole argument. The idea that now there's cantrips that do actual damage. You're not just lighting things up with a teeny globe of light anymore. You're not just, changing the color of something or changing the flavor of something. There are actual spells that do, how you doing? A D6, a D8, a D10. And under the new rules, you can cast that an infinite amount of times. Rules is written. And there's no rules as perceived, rules as intended. It's blatantly there. I'm a 1st-level wizard that can cast a 0-level spell an infinite amount of times, Ray of Frost, that does damage and hinders my opponent, reduces their magic, reduces their movement, and that's 0. And that's not even the most broken one. Hi. So people are arguing about, they're too broken, they shouldn't be allowed, blah, 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 blah. Oh no, Wizards of the Coast, Dungeons and Dragons is a Saturday morning cartoon. Really? Duh. So somewhere in this argument, somebody else said, well, if you don't like them, change them. Or just don't have them. As ingrained as they are into the DNA of D&D, also ingrained into the DNA of D&D, or any game, is if the general populace of the game agrees that something doesn't work with the game, change it. You have open door policy to add things to the game that aren't in the base and book. Therefore, you have an open door policy to subtract things from the game that are in the base and book. Don't like cantrips? Remove them. So this led to that's not the point of the argument. The point of the argument is rules is written, and you can't just, use the, just change it excuse without addressing rules is written. Okay, well, rules is written say I can do a D8 infinite amount of times that also reduces your movement. Why do I ever need to learn a better spell until I get Fireball? I just would focus on my Ray of Frost. In fact, in my Freeport game, Casey had a wizard who pretty much just always cast Ray of Frost because he realized that was far more effective than any other spell he would get to like Lightning Bolt. So he was like, Ray of Frost, Ray of Frost, Ray of Frost, and some protection spell. Oh, Mage Arbor, Ray of Frost. And he just, he got the reputation of being the Ray of Frost wizard. And for till he got to, Lightning Bolt, he was just pretty much like Ray of Frost because, hey, so there's your rules as written, and your rules as perceived, and your rules as intended. The same time Wizards got a D6, Wizards got a shotgun. Now, one or the other would have been fine, okay, to compensate for the fact you only have 4 hit points. We're going to give you the shotgun. Or we're giving you a D6, but we're taking away the shotgun. To compensate for the D6, you no longer have the 0-level spells. So the argument is, of course, rules as written says blah, blah, blah. DM and players agree, let's change them. They should be X instead of Y. They should take up spell slots like any other spell. They get rid of the damaging ones and just bring them back to what they were intended. Screw rules as written, screw rules as intended, screw rules as perceived. We know what the intent of these zero-level spells were, to up the power level of wizards and other casters, which is a whole separate argument. Melee versus, martial versus caster. Who wins? Caster. It was supposed to give everybody a level playing field, but it quickly revealed that no, it is not a level playing field, because an archer runs out of arrows. I never run out of Ray of Frost. A fighter has to worry about, getting hurt or dropping his sword or his armor getting broke. I never run out of Ray of Frost. And unless I'm in a situation where Ray of Frost isn't going to work, which, come on, how many situations are specifically designed for cold in your typical D&D adventure? Oh, I got a comment. So this is a pointless argument that went on way longer than it should have. Called out a friend of mine over the argument of rules as written versus you can't just band-aid. You can't just call something X if it's something else. You can't just say, I'm playing W, but I'm using the rules from this game, so I'm not really playing W. That goes with the whole other argument of the ship of Theseus. When does D&D stop being D&D? But since D&D is a brand, it is not specific to any one thing. It would more likely be, when does Wizards of the Coast level-based fantasy stop being Wizards of the Coast level-based fantasy and start becoming something else? And if by altering cantrips, which are ingrained in the DNA of Wizards of the Coast level-based fantasy 2026, am I chipping away at Wizards of the Coast level-based fantasy and turning it into something else? And at what point do I just stop calling it Wizards of the Coast D20 level-based fantasy and start calling it Earth Dawn or superheroes or Shadow Dark or space? The rules as written argument versus the rules as perceived argument versus the rules as intended argument. And people saying, well, if you don't like it and everybody at the table agrees, or you lay it out very clearly at the beginning of the game, this is not how that works in this world, then that should be fine, as long as there is a alternative or whatever. I don't allow cantrips. I've changed them. This is how they work. They're closer to the way they originally intended. They literally are zero level, make life easier, cozy spells. No more 1d8. It's always AI. Is this AI? The quality is ass. Oh yeah, that's an AI tree. And an AI hand. That's an AI car. Go fuck yourself, Condor. And the argument was basically, sadly, as much as I would like to say this is a brand new controversy, breaks down to, if you don't play my game my way, I get to say horrible things about you. I get to badmouth you, insult you, threaten you, embarrass you, because you're not playing my game my way. How dare you change X? Because that's not what Gygax intended. That's not what D&D says. That's not rules as written. And of course, that is exactly what Gygax intended. Gygax was very big on the change shit. They're not rules, they're ideas. The very first rule is, it's your game. You don't like something I wrote? Find something better. Well, Gygax never did that. Really? Let me tell you the story about Dave Hargrave. Yes, he did. Blah, blah, blah. Rules is written. Blah, blah, blah. You can't just change. Yeah, you can. You can just change. Will the change work? Will your players accept the change? That should be the point. Not, can I change contrips because I don't like the way they're written? Of course you can. is will they accept it? And this gets to the deeper philosophy of what is 2026 Wizards of the Coast D20 Fantasy. Because while I have yet to play 2026 D20 Fantasy, I have played 2014 D20 Fantasy, and I assure you that if you play 2014 5th edition as it is intended to be played, as it is written, as an over-the-top Saturday morning cartoon fantasy superhero game, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Eberron, Skull Crashers, it works. It works if you run it as intended. If you try and change it, trying to make it something it's not, it doesn't work. I have been in several 5.0 D&D games where the DM tried to drastically make it something it's not. You've heard my story about the human-centric King Arthur game, where people were showing up at the table with tieflings and stuff, despite the DM saying it was human-centric. So the problem is not, can I alter D20 Fantasy from Wizards of the Coast? It's what happens if I do alter it, and do the players accept it? Do the players accept I'm not allowing 0 level spells as written? Or do they just ignore you and just keep doing what they were doing before and hope you don't notice? Oh, you didn't notice I brought a tiefling? I told you. No, I specifically said no non-humans. But you said you were running 5e. Make sure you goon today. I don't goon. You know, really? And if I did, that'd be none of your business, but I really don't, you know, being all asexual and all. So, but whatever brings you joy, my friend, goon to your heart's content. Support Project Melody. So, now we come to the crux of rules as written versus when does it stop being D20 Fantasy? Does it stop working if I change X? Well, probably, because just with, you know, there's how many expansions, alterations, add-ons, modifications already in existence for 5e, and we know people are picking and choosing ones they want, and for the most part, DMs seem to be okay with that because, I don't know, that just seems to be the agreed upon mentality of 5e or what have you, but that's a completely different subject for a completely different vlog, and I've already spent 20 minutes talking about this nonsense. Point is, rules are written versus DM fiat, rules is written versus session 0, rules is written versus rule of cool. I don't like X. I want to change X. I'm telling everybody I changed X. If everybody agrees, that's the game going forward. Well, that's violating the basic DNA of the game, and you're just slapping on a fix instead of addressing the problem. But what am I supposed to do to address the problem? Go back in time and tell Jeremy Crawford, no, don't do cantrips that way? No, I change it. 5e, 4e, 3e, 2e, 1e, 0e, every game out there is written with a DNA code that says, change what you do not like. And as long as you let everybody know, you're fine. These are the rules of my game. Well, it's not D&D. Okay, fine, it's not. D&D doesn't mean anything anymore. It's D20 level-based fantasy from Wizards of the Coast, or D20 level-based fantasy from Arcane Library, or D20 level-based superheroes from the OGGM. Ingrained in all that DNA is change what you don't like. Find an option out there, and if everybody agrees that that option's okay, fine. Or if somebody is vehement that they want something and you're saying no, there's also a compromise, which we don't talk about enough, which is give them what they want, but not necessarily the way they want it. All right? Okay, you want X. I'm not going to give you X, but I'll give you Y, which is kind of like X, but in a different way. It's not the way you want it, but it's the same thing mechanically. You're not a tiefling, you're a human with demonic traits. And there's good and bad to that. Oh, you want a robot? Well, there are no robots, but I'll give you a homunculus. You want a gun? Well, there are no guns, but you could get a wand, etc., etc., etc. A game that totally surprised you in a good way. Savage Worlds. Savage Worlds is a game that totally surprised me in a good way. First time I read Savage Worlds, I was like, this game cannot work. Till I played it. And I was like, oh my God, this game works. This game works. And more importantly, there was not a single idea that I came up with that I could not make between the basic rules of Savage Worlds and Necessary Evil. I came up with like 20 superheroes in half an hour. And all of them worked. So there's a game that surprised me. Anyways, I'm going to let you go. What is your thoughts on the cantrip argument? Are you in my corner where you're just like, it's not worth arguing over? Do whatever the fuck you want. It's your game. Who cares what anybody else says? Are you in the middle? Do you even care or use cantrips? Or are you on the rules as written, you can't just put a Band-Aid on D&D school? Anyways, that's today's controversy. We've got another one for the next walk, which, well, it's not a controversy I thought about. So we've had 2 new controversies this week, this year, which is really exciting. So I'll talk to you later. Stay safe out there, and I will see you.